Well, let's get more on this now with David Otto, who's a counter-terrorism consultant and director of the Geneva Centre for Africa Security and Strategic Studies. He joins us now from London. Good to have you back with us, David. We know in December, the last of the French troops left Niger, and soon after that, a few months in fact, Niamey cancelled a security agreement with the US. Why does it want US troops to leave the country?
Well, the authorities in Niamey, the military regime, made a decision and accused the U.S. of undermining its national sovereignty, and they thought that the U.S. was not respectful of the regime in Niger. But of course, this has also been associated with the fact that despite the 110 million US drone base, the Malian authorities, argue that, they haven't seen any sort of, progress in terms of the counterinsurgency operation. And they have ultimately made the decision that, the US presence is not in favor of national security, and that, it doesn't help in terms of the counterinsurgency operations. They also complain that they do not have access, to any of the U.S. military bases that is installed in the country, and that effectively the U.S. does what it wants. So, according to the Nigerian authorities, the U.S. are no longer different from the French, which of course is a terrible miscalculation by the U.S. government.
Yes, and we know that Niger has been governed by military rulers since 2023, and this decision was made by the ruling military junta. But what does this mean for the country's counter-insurgency efforts? Niamey says that the US troop presence and indeed the French troop presence did little to help the insurgents or battle insurgents in the country. What does the military regime plan to do in that respect?
Well, I think, the military regime, relies a lot on the Liptako-Goma alliance, which it has developed with Burkina Faso and Mali. Already, they have, had some successes. One of the leaders of the Sahel province, Abu Huzaifa, was killed recently by the Malian regime. So they believe that, this is huge progress, that, has been made. And, effectively, they want to rely on their neighbors. Perhaps, this is the next, strategy. If they kick the U.S. out as the U.S. is leaving, they would principally rely on national strategy. So let's see how that works. But, for the U.S., this will blindside them into any intelligence information that they usually have, within the region. But of course, it's a disaster, for the United States, in terms of their geopolitical strategy in the region.
Okay, David Otto, we'll have to leave it there. Thanks as always for joining us on the program.